I can do it again.
Welcome to the Clinical Cookout. Hey now, it's your Auntie Ashley.
But it says in broad.
What's up? It's your girl, Auntie Shug.
Hey, it's your girl, Auntie Quiche.
Hey y'all, it's Auntie Amber.
Welcome to the Clinical.
All right, we on here now. Hey y'all, we're good.
I was like, what the heck? I was like, what's happening?
Well, before we get started, let me quickly read our disclaimer. This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are all qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and sometimes provide community resources. We're not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide therapy, diagnosis, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Oh, professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, y'all. So this is our season 2 premiere. And we are live. So people get to interact with us, just like our Ask a Live Wednesday. But it's going to be a little different because this is the episode. So we are going to bring y'all the segments the same way we do the episodes, but y'all can chime in. We may or may not get to your comments, so don't feel like we throwing shade or not, or being petty or anything like that. We don't get to what we can.
Good job, Ash.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and hop into our hot sauce topic because I know people are dying to hear this. Just a reminder, our hot sauce is just a quick discussion to spark interest, to get the conversation going. In this case, it is related to our topic. So let's go ahead and hop into that. So what's our hot sauce topic?
Go ahead, Ash. Tell them.
All right, y'all. So we had an actual request for this topic. And it fits into our overall discussion today. So hot sauce for today is talking about the Tory Lanez case. And notice I said Tory Lanez because Meg Thee Stallion was not on trial. She was the victim. So this is the Tory Lanez case with the victim, Megan Thee Stallion. And people wanted to hear our perspective on that. So what y'all got? Keish, I know already where you about to go.
Go ahead and go first.
Listen, y'all already know. I while the trial was going on, there were so many thoughts I had because I was so disappointed in our community that I tried to reserve a lot of like tweeting, a lot of talking about it because I knew if I said something, I was just gonna go clean on off the cliff. So I'm glad I reserved a lot of my comments for tonight. And without saying too much, I started to think like my main issue was the amount of misinformation and disinformation everybody was spreading around because they had their own thoughts, their own whatever they had going on. And I was like, the laziness of not even taking the time out to even read anything, even refer to experts. So I follow this guy on Twitter. He's a Black lawyer. His name is CJ Lawrence. And he basically broke down a lot of the stuff or a lot of the things that was going on, like breaking down terms and things of that nature, like unreasonable doubt, just stuff of, regular folks who are not lawyers don't understand. And there were people still trying to argue with him about evidence and about how to, presenting the evidence in court. And I'm like, this is the actual lawyer trying to tell you why the jury may have reached the verdict that they did and the charges. He was trying to explain that. And even then, people were trying to move the goalposts. So first it was, she didn't get shot. Then it was, well, she got shot, but this and this was going on. Or they were trying to justify why this happened to her. And so there was just a lot going on. But to relate it to mental health, I felt like when people were talking about all this misinformation, I thought about confirmation bias. And that's something that people typically use when they want to verify whatever belief system or whatever ideas that they have. They use pieces of information to confirm things to believe for themselves. And so when people brought up Megan's, sexual history, they were bringing up all types of stuff to confirm or try to poke holes in the story. And I'm not saying that, maybe I didn't watch the Oprah interview, or she did an interview and somebody was like, see, she lied about sleeping with Tory Lanez. See, she lied. And I'm like, that still does not justify her being shot. I don't care what's going on. Then they're like, well, there were fragments in her foot, not bullets. Those were fragments. She was still hit. Like it was not registering to people. And so when I hear a lot of people have all this confirmation bias, it really rubbed me the wrong way, basically. It rubbed me the wrong way.
So were you on the team where it was like, believe Black women no matter what?
That's a good question. I am on the team of waiting to see what happens. And the only reason why I'm on that team is because I have watched a lot of people react instead of waiting to see all information come out, and then you make a consensus, or then you make an analysis of what's going on. Now, if I were to compare, because a lot of people were comparing Tory Lanez being compared to Emmett Till, they were comparing this to Trayvon Martin, and I was like, what? Oh yeah,
How?
Because they were doing the most, okay? The most with this case, which those are two different things, and people don't understand law, nor are they lawyers. Now, I'm not saying you don't have a right to not disagree, because if you disagree, you do, but allow yourself to at least look at all the information. Allow yourself to listen from experts, and not just come to some conclusion and then spread the misinformation as if it's fact. Right. That was the problem for me. So it's not that I'm just believe people no matter what. It's about taking my time and really listening to the analysis of what the experts have to offer. And then I'll make my own judgment. I mean, at the end of the day, she wasn't shooting herself. So I had already knew, like, obviously she didn't shoot herself. And once the medical records back that up for me, I'm like, clearly she didn't shoot herself. I cannot prove intention. I don't know what Tory's intentions were. And I'm not going to sit up here and say I know, because I don't. What I do know is that somebody had a gun, it went off, and she got shot. That's what I know.
His intentions was a shooter and a pinky toe.
You know what? Shut up, Shonda.
No, his intentions were to make her dance, right? Make her dance.
Yeah, he wanted her to dance.
Was that a Harlem Nights reference? That was a Harlem Nights reference, though.
It was a Harlem Nights. Why?
Shut up.
I'm sorry. That's not funny.
So I'm not team always believe everybody, but I am team always believe the victim first, and I am team protect Black women, and that's not going to change. So for me, because Black women are always questioned from the jump, I can't do that. I'm going to believe you until it's proven that you have lied. I'm going to believe a Black woman, because we never get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm very sick of it. So I believe Megan from jump. I didn't have to know anything other than she said she got shot. There was blood and gunfire heard. That's all I need to know. She got shot. I believe the girl got shot. I believe she was harmed. I didn't care about the rest of the story. Now, I will say later on, I did care about the rest of the facts. I did want to hear the rest of the story and why, especially when people were saying, well, she lied from the jump, because originally I believe it was said that she didn't say that Tory shot her, but there was a specific reason for that, and people choose to ignore it. That girl is a Black woman, and this was a Black man, and we already know our fear of the police. She probably was scared to death. If I tell these police that I just got shot by this Black man, they will run up here and kill him. And granted, some people might look at that and say, well, shoot, she got shot. Why does she care if he get killed? Because our first instinct is to protect Black men.
No, it ain't.
For a lot of it is.
No, I'm not.
Is to protect.
You don't believe that?
No. If you shoot me, I'm gonna be like, I'm a duck while y'all handle y'all business. No, I'm just playing. I'm not gonna do that. However, the reason why she did that is not because she was so scared that they was gonna come in there and shoot him. In my opinion, this is what she said. But the reason why she might have did that is because in domestic violence, you tend to identify with your abuser. And so while I want to see while you did hurt me, I don't want to see you get hurt. And I
Tory
mean,
was her friend. Tory wasn't no regular nigga out here. He was her friend. Like they was cool. They was kicking it.
That was her friend.
Well, I can see that.
yeah, and I mean it goes hand in hand with the whole you know what I mean, like you don't want to see him get shot down by the police and everything like that. But
yeah,
is every black man that the police gonna get shot down? We don't know. So she may have had a point when she said that, but at the same time, somebody takes a gun out, points it at my feet, and shoots me in the foot. No, there is no protection for you because you didn't protect me. And so how do we sit over here and holler out, protect black women? He didn't protect you, but you're going to protect him. And I mean, you know, her state of mind at the time, your frontal lobe closes. There's a lot of things that go through your mind. So, or there's a lot of things that don't go through your mind. But I don't think that it was just, well, I thought that the police was going to shoot him. I think that you talk to lawyers, and I think that lawyers put a beautiful spin on it. And that's how they come up with how you rationalize. That's what I call rationalize. I think that there were some lies told, and I think that that's what makes it hard for people to be believed when it's time to be believed. I'm not saying that she's not a victim, but I'm saying that it makes it hard for other people and for me.
But see,
and not just
go ahead.
not for me.
Go ahead.
now, I was going to say not just lawyers do that, but we're talking about also how domestic violence is portrayed in the media. And, you know, when Auntie Keisha's saying, like, look at all the evidence or look at everything, all the information before you make a decision on who you believe or whatnot, it's strategically put out there in certain ways to cause that controversy, right? And even though it's fun for the people on social media trying to figure it out and do all of this, it's not fun for the victim. It's not fun for Megan, right? To be told like, oh, well, you said this at first and then you said this, and you know, the media is portraying it a certain way. This happens with a lot of celebrities. So that's just how it's portrayed, and it sucks. It really sucks.
Well, I don't want to say that I didn't. Let me back up here. Now I'm gonna let you speak, Ashley. I don't want to say that I didn't believe her right off the bat because I'm all about protecting black women too. I just know, like you were saying, Auntie Amber, that people have misconstrued things so much and put out stuff that's so false so much that I have to reserve from just reacting in case something like a detail come out and I ain't know about it. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I believe her. I believe what she's talking about. But that don't mean I have to publicly say anything yet. So I don't publicly say anything because, I mean, as researchers, we all know, like, we try to get all the facts we can to build a case, to build an analysis of what we think the situation is, because we know as therapists and as people who work with individuals, we try to gather all the background history before we come to a diagnosis. So my mind went into, okay, let me wait. Even though I believe her, I still need to wait to, you know, make sure that I'm good. And when I go out here and say publicly and advocate for domestic violence victims, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about instead of motherfuckers coming around talking about, well, see, this happened. You didn't consider this. I'm trying to have myself clear cut.
But see, that's also why I didn't say anything. And if everybody who knows me know that I always follow the trends and what's going on, and I speak up. I speak my mind. I'll give my opinion. I never once said anything about it because all I had to say was I believe her. Everything else, like waiting for the evidence, yes, indeed, we do gather research. But I also think a lot of times with domestic violence victims, this is why they struggle so much, because yes, they're gonna possibly lie to protect their abuser. They're gonna lie to protect this other person possibly. But at the end of the day, I stand firm. If you've never been a direct victim of domestic violence, you do not understand the mind of a domestic violence victim. You don't know why they made the choice to lie. You don't know why they did a certain thing a certain way or went back to this person again and again and again. You don't know why. That brings in Chrisean and Blueface. You don't know why these two people can't seem to see y'all are toxic together. Get away from each other. We don't understand it. because we're not in that situation. We don't have that mindset. And I always tell people, never say what you would or wouldn't do because you ain't been in those shoes.
I'm gonna tell y'all right now, 10 toes down, she's not getting into a domestic violence situation. Now, the reason why I say that is because I think what happens when people get into those situations is that they get so far in love so deep to whereas it's difficult to come back. It's difficult to bring yourself back and be like, wait a minute, this ain't right. And so they miss out on signs. Before you get into a domestic violence situation, there are signs. There are people there. Somebody has said something. Somebody has showed you something, shook you maybe a little bit too hard. They show some controlling signs, but some people like that. Some people are used to the toxicity because it might have been it might have been something that they've seen. And I grew up in situations where I always seen domestic violence. And so I run exactly the opposite way from it. But when your mind is conditioned to be like, oh, this is normal, it becomes normal, then that's why they stay in those situations because their brain has been changed. As you keep on witnessing those situations, it looks normal to you. Maybe it looks normal to her. Maybe it looks normal to Chrisean. If we look at the video where Blueface knocked her daddy out, I'm not laughing at that because that's wrong. But when if we look at the video where her daddy hit him and he knocked her out, he said, "Have you ever hit a woman?" What did her daddy say? "Yeah, I hit a woman." He said, "Why?" He said, "Because that woman was disrespectful. I had to, like, that woman was disrespectful." So if you feel disrespected, you get to put your hands on somebody. That's the environment that she grew up in. So of course she run around here slapping on him and thinking that it's normal for him to slap on her.
Yeah,
you got a point.
I was reading a Twitter like a Twitter thread, and the lady was talking about how a lot of people victim blame and say, "Oh, well, that person should have left. That person shouldn't have been there." And they were like, "You're closer to domestic violence than you think you are. Than you think." And they were like, for you to say like basically this person should leave and this and that just automatically adds to that vicious cycle of domestic violence. And us, saying like they should have did this or they should be doing that. Again, the brain changes, especially when it comes to social conditioning. There are a lot of things that we are all doing that could be, not healthy, but because that's all we know, we continue to replicate those behaviors and model those behaviors. And I think that there is something to say about, domestic violence and how in the cycles that we find ourselves in and what's modeled in our environment. And I've said this before, this country romanticizes violence and aggression. We romanticize that. So I think that there's definitely something to that when we talk about what people are used to and seeing. And what the hell are you laughing at, Shiv?
What are you laughing at?
Like, I'm sorry. I watched that video today so I can be spun up.
God. Always got to deal with you.
Yeah, man.
See, this is why this is a problem live. This is why this is a problem live because before
we can't get through it.
Now the viewers are getting a glimpse into how recording goes for us. This is why we record so long.
I'm sorry. It's
okay.
true.
Why would you watch that? Out of all things, you would watch that one.
All right, let me bring us back because we doing it. We're doing it again. So okay, go ahead.
I put a poll up. I just want to tell everybody about the results of the poll that I put up on our Facebook page in regards to the Tory Lanez case. So I put a poll up on Facebook to ask people to kind of give their vote on how they felt about it. So one of the options you could choose was I always believe Megan. I wanted to wait until all the evidence came in. I still believe Megan lied. I don't believe Tory shot Megan. I believe Kelsey shot Megan. I believe Megan has some fault. I believe Megan's sexual history was necessary evidence, and I have no clue about this situation. So the bulk of people voted for I always believe Megan. We had a few votes for I wanted to wait until all the evidence came in. We had one, I think maybe one or two for I don't believe Tory shot Megan. And then we had a few that were I have no clue about this case. So
yeah. And the whole I don't believe Tory shot Megan, because a lot of people heard the word inconclusive and thought no DNA. And again, for the newcomers who came on here, I suggested going to CJ, Lawrence, who's a Black lawyer who broke down the different terms. And inconclusive does not mean no DNA. And I think, like I said, refer to your experts, refer to the people who do this and can explain to you why they reached the conclusion that they did. So, I will say that until I'm blue in the face, because it really makes me angry that Black people are falling down this whole rabbit hole of just believing whatever they see on the internet instead of actually doing your due diligence. Do your due diligence. But Tashana, no, she wasn't researching. Don't gas her up. Don't do it. Don't you do it.
I'm a scientist. I needed to research.
Boom.
No, but you know what? One thing is, dang, y'all made me lose my train of thought. Keisha, you were saying how people needed to do their research, and people did their research on those cases. People do their research on Blueface and Chrisean, but people don't do their research in their own lives. Japera Jones said, once you get hit, you think it's a one-off, then it happens again and again until you become trauma bonded. That part. Then you think that you treat someone better, and that just can't be true or real. What she just said is spot on. Because when you get those DV situations, and this is not even talking about celebrities, we're past that now, because the masses go through DV, right? And Abraham mentioned battered women syndrome. My husband, but he's a scientist too. But the syndrome is real. Battered woman syndrome is real, and trauma bonding is real. And so you're becoming bonded to this person because now y'all are sharing trauma. And this is where that Black struggle love come in. You know, we done been through so much. We should get married. We should stay together forever because we've been through much. We done been through fighting. We done been through cheating. We done been through beating. We hit each other. You know what? That means we belong together. That's probably the biggest research to tell you that y'all don't belong together. But people don't see that because they just see struggle love. Struggle love is romanticized in our culture.
Yeah. And this is a good place to transition into talking more in depth about domestic violence, the signs, the trigger, all of that. We have a special guest coming on, so let's go ahead and hop into our main dish for today.
Ew.
Ashley, you muted.
Oh.
So our special guest today is a friend of Ashley. So we'll go ahead and let her introduce her friend.
All right, y'all. So this is a good friend of mine and also a fellow colleague because she is a professional in the mental health field. She specializes in domestic violence. She has worked with both victims and perpetrators. So she knows both ends, and she's going to give us some amazing information, and we're going to be able to ask her some questions. So let me just bring her on. Let her introduce herself better than I can.
Hello, everybody. I am a friend of Ashley's as well as her sorority sister. I have been a licensed clinical social worker, I have my master's in clinical psychology and social work.
Okay, give us the double.
Yes. I am a certified clinical trauma professional as well as a certified domestic violence counselor. And I have seen domestic violence across pretty much every population I've ever worked with, whether it was children impacted by domestic violence, offenders in prison due to domestic violence, victims of domestic violence in inpatient or outpatient drug treatment facilities, geriatrics, you name it, I've seen it. And as the ladies were talking during their hot sauce session, they were making a lot of great points. When we sit around and we talk about the Black struggle love narrative, and we talk about Meg protecting Tory, that could have been Megan Pete just hanging on just the student at Texas A&M, Texas Southern. Without her actually ever being a celebrity, her story could very much look like any victim of domestic violence. Current statistics right now says 1 in 4 women will be abused. As of 2021, 1 in 8 men are also victims of abuse.
Yes.
So this is no longer gender specific. The numbers for the LGBTI community is a little bit difficult to capture just because it is less reported.
Mhm.
And when we talk about the protection factor, we're also dealing with something that racial trauma is a huge part of women, especially women of color, being able to reach out to law enforcement and get themselves involved in the criminal justice aspect of being a domestic violence victim, right? Um, a black woman is killed every 4.5 hours by a partner. Once again, every 4.5 hours, a black woman will lose her life to her intimate partner or domestic violence or domestic violence. And there is a difference when we talk about domestic violence versus an intimate partner. Tory and Megan were a primary example of an intimate partner violence because they don't live together. Domestic violence goes for someone within the same household. And we try to get people to understand that because if we just wrap it all up into domestic violence, people don't think that just a boyfriend and a girlfriend can be domestically abusive towards one another. They don't think teenagers can be engaged in domestically abusive or intimate partner violence or intimate partner abusive relationships.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
Um,
Thank you for that breakdown because I don't think I knew that. So thank you for that distinction.
Yeah, I definitely just
oh
learned
no,
something.
Yeah,
oh
and
no
even
problem.
online, like when you look up the definition of domestic violence, it'll say AKA intimate partner violence to make you think it's kind of interchangeable. It's the same
Mhm.
thing. So that's good to get that
hmm
distinction.
And when we talk about how we as a society addresses it, one of the first questions people ask is why didn't they leave, right?
Hmm.
And leaving sounds a lot easier than actually doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It takes the average victim 7 times to
Mhm.
successfully leave their partner. Seven.
And in order for
Um,
somebody to know that, in order for somebody to leave, they have to know that they're a victim.
Right.
A lot of
That
people don't
part.
even know that they're a victim. They think, we were fighting, and we were doing this, and we were doing that, and it's like, no, you don't realize whether you are the perpetrator or you are victimizing somebody or you are the victim. Some people don't realize it because that's all they know.
Yep. It's like we fight each other.
exactly.
It's okay. We fight each other.
Ex-
It's okay.
exactly. And one of the things I tell people, because I no longer use ladies when we're talking about domestic abuse, um, when I'm talking to anyone that comes into my office or calls our office, is hey, I fear for your safety because it only gets worse. No one meets their abuser as their abuser. They meet their abuser as a lover, as a friend. They're
Mm.
nice, they're generous,
The
they love me.
representative.
They are the representative. The best way I explain it is if you've ever gone house shopping or apartment hunting, you're going to see the best of that house, right? It's going to be dressed up nice, it's going to smell good.
Good
You're not
enough.
going to see the holes in the wall. You're not going to see that the roof is leaking until after you sign that mortgage and you move in and you get comfortable,
Damn, you better give
right?
us the word.
Girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Word right there.
Once you move in, the old owners have moved out, so that painting that was hanging on the wall, that was just hiding a hole.
Hmm.
The bathroom cold water don't turn on and the hot water in the kitchen turns brown.
Hmm.
By then, you already in there. You done made your first mortgage payment. How you
Yeah.
getting out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Listen,
it's
I like that.
go ahead.
listen, we know it. We got an issue with the water right now, and these people won't come fix it. I'm about to get mad.
I don't want to talk about my situation with the water when we moved in. Lord. But I was gonna say it is interesting, that you get that when you first meet the person. But from what I understand, there are some minor, very minor signs that you can look for even when you're getting that representative, the generous person, sometimes you get like that. I think the term is love bombing or something like that, where they're just like overly generous. They're like, if you do this for me, I'm going to give you all of these things, and I love you. I'm giving you flowers every day, so you stay at home and you don't go anywhere. You know what I mean? So like those small hints of trying to control or give you too much, and then threatening to take that away later on. So that's like one sign that I know of. But what are some of the other like minor signs that you could look for, or that would kind of pique your interest? Like, oh,
The
maybe this.
the biggest.
So
Oh, okay. I thought you was asking me. But
I was asking everybody. Everybody.
Oh, okay. So one of the things I tell, I do a curriculum called DB101 with my agency. It's a 6-week program where we teach people the signs of a domestically abusive relationship, right? And we have 20 personality traits or 20 traits to recognize an abuser, right? And people don't think of these things when they're looking at somebody's representative. Because how many of us with our significant others would look at them when they say, hey, call me when you get home, and think it's odd? We think they're just being concerned, they're just being nice, right? But most people don't look at when he say call me at 5 o'clock and you call him at 5:01, he is ranting and raving and is almost a screaming lunatic. The controlling factor.
that's what I was gonna say.
That's going to be one of those first little peek throughs, right? The jealousy, the blaming you for his feelings or her feelings, the blaming you for everything that goes wrong. The overly over concern for what you're doing. If you're just randomly talking to a guy in the grocery store about, hey, can you get this box of cereal? Now he's gonna have a problem, and we all know we don't want those problems, right? Uh huh.
You know, something that happened to me before I got married while I was still dating. A guy I was talking to, we weren't even talking for that long, and he was nice, everything was cool, but we were going out, and he said, "I don't think you should wear that." And for me, that was a problem. You don't think I should wear what? Because you met me wearing things like this. You're not gonna tell me what to wear. So for me, that was like, oh, this probably ain't gonna work. And it wasn't even that I thought he would ever put his hands on me. I was just like, you don't think I should wear this? That's not your decision.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
giving
and I
you
mean,
controlling vibes.
yeah. Sometimes your spidey senses tingle. Like when I see control, um, immediately it's a turn off for me because I'm just like I've been raised. I'm a whole adult, and you was raised. So if you were raised to be the way you are, I'm raised to be the way I am. I don't need you to now reparent me. I was in a situation where where I was talking to some guy and he wanted to know, well, where were you at? He wanted to be on the phone with me all day. You don't want me to go out. You don't want me to see my friends. Uh, that was a no for me because I was just like, first of all, I'm free as a bird. Like I have a very free spirit and I don't like to be told what to do. And then that's mostly by anybody, let alone by somebody I got to wake up next to. And that's one of like the signs. It's like a signs of control and they're subtle. Don't wear this, don't talk to this person. You know what I mean? I've seen relationships where my friends were not allowed to talk to me. But you know what I mean? Because when you see somebody who has that very free spirit friend, then you're like, nah, that's gonna be a bad influence on this person that I'm with. You don't need to be around her. And that's a big sign.
Man, and
That's
even
that.
sometimes, oh, sorry.
That's that isolation factor.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee to those friends, significant others, you magically became a bitch, a hoe, everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Without these people having probably met you maybe once.
Mm-hmm.
You literally became everything but a child of God there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
was also gonna say, like, thinking about the victim, like you get a lot of questions of like how did you not know? How did you not see the signs? How did you get into this? And a lot of times those subtle signs can be misinterpreted as this person caring. So if you think about someone who's grown up in a family where they didn't feel like they were cared about, they didn't feel loved, they didn't get that sense of security and that affirmation, and then you get someone that's like, oh, I care about what you wear, like I don't want other people to have you, you misinterpret that as like, you care about me, you love me, like, damn, this is great, I want to keep this, right? Not recognizing what's going to come later on when you decide you're not, like, you don't want to listen to that anymore.
So I call that the cup, right? Have y'all ever gotten a cup from like McDonald's and you can't figure out why it's leaking? Those are human beings. We all have those little holes, right? Whether it's we don't feel pretty, we don't feel smart, we don't feel loved, it's something, right? And that liquid is coming out. That abuser is a predator. So they're coming in trying to find all of those little holes that's at your foundation because they're going to come in and fill them. So if you don't feel pretty, hey, you're about to be the most beautiful thing on this earth. Like, you're going to be the most beautiful thing in this world. You don't feel smart. Oh, you're the smartest woman I've ever dealt with. You don't feel loved. Oh, I love you. You don't have you don't have a strong family. Oh, I can be your everything. You don't have strong friendships. Oh, I can be your all. And so that's how they get in. It's very nefarious and it's very slow. Very rarely do abusers come straight out of pocket and knock your head between the washer and dryer. Very rarely. They might typically come in, everything is good, they're quiet. Hi, welcome to Therapy with Nikki, y'all. This is legit how I talk in sessions.
We wasn't ready, and that is one of my favorite sayings, but I just wasn't ready.
This is legit how I talk in sessions.
Very rarely will we knock your head between the washer and the dryer off top.
Like, I'm thinking about the washer and dryer.
Keep going. I tried so hard. I'm sorry.
We some goofballs if you didn't see that. We some goofballs.
No, but y'all are getting who I am as a professional. Like, this is what my clients get. It's a lot less cussing, but this is generally who it is, right?
Yeah.
So they're not gonna they ain't gonna two-piece you out the gate. They're gonna nicely walk you into that. By the time they hit you, they have already methodically broken you down to accept that first hit. Because they've already broken something, they've already put their hand through the wall with your head next to it. They've already told you how worthless you are. They already told you that no person's gonna want you. You can only be loved by them. And so by the time you get hit, they already made you think you deserved it. That you think you did something to make them hit you.
Is this why they have the honeymoon stage? Because people tend to, or victims tend to think back to how things used to be. And when they're, when they get into fights or it gets physical, then that person cycles back around to being the loving, caring person that they knew in the beginning.
So that is actually part of the cycle of abuse.
Okay.
And the cycle of abuse looks like this. You're in a honeymoon stage, everything is good, everything is nice, everything is calm. And then you build up, and then you have this explosion, and then we go back into that honeymoon phase. Baby, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. I didn't mean to do it. If you hadn't done it, that's where that nefarious conditioning, psychological abuse comes in. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have hit you, or I wouldn't have cussed at you, or I wouldn't have did X, Y, Z. And then we go back into that honeymoon phase, gifts, flowers, apologies, promises of change. And then we start all over. And as abuse escalates and becomes more frequent, the honeymoon phases get shorter, the explosives get bigger, and the calm starts becoming non-existent.
Okay.
Yep. I was looking at a comment we had that said what was it? Abusers tend to speak openly about their last victim in order to make themselves out to be faultless. They do, and that's a part of the blame. That's actually, and I mean, a lot of abusers have some very narcissistic traits to where they might, nothing was their fault or everything is about them. They want you to kind of make your life about them. And then, Miss Neek said, "Oh, my teenage years." When we were growing up, you would get the older guys to that already graduated school and we're already done, and they're coming, 26, 27, and they want to come and sit outside of the high school, and they're picking them off like little snipers, just picking off these girls. And all it takes is for you to find the one that's like, oh, she's nice looking. I know her situation because a lot of people know everybody in our town anyway. And now you find the most insecure person, and then you're an older guy, and the next thing you know, you're oppressing somebody because they're easy to oppress. And so one of the things I always teach my clients is why. There's always a why. Why does that 29-year-old want 18-year-old you? Why? Because you really should be on the same intellectual level as your partner, the same emotional maturity level as your partner, but a 29-year-old with a 18-year-old girl that, now you find out that the girl is interested because she's been abused all her life, or her parents told her that she was worthless. But then now you got this well-versed guy, he's got a car, because, at 18, we like, oh, he got a car. He's got a car, he got a little bit of money, and you're smitten, but you're being manipulated by somebody older. And that's not to say all older men do that, but that's how some of that happens.
No, you know what? Recently on social media, and I can't remember who it was, but it was on another podcast, but it kind of blew up for a minute. This man, this 30-something-year-old man actually said, I prefer dating women who are 19 and 20 because they're more
I've seen that podcast.
They're more moldable. I'm like, do you hear yourself, sir? What? You are 30-something. Why would you ever want to be with a 19-year-old? Even though they're legal, and that always bothers me. Legal, they still don't make it right in my mind, because why do you want this young girl? And he basically admitted it. They're moldable. They're not going to give me as much pushback. They're easier to deal with because you can manipulate them. That just say what it is. You can manipulate her.
And manipulation is something that very few people talk about when we're talking about IPV or DV. Mm-hmm. Where, like you said, they will curate the story they want you to know. Oh, she was crazy. She said I hit her. No, that was after she hit me. That is so common, because am I really gonna walk up to a monster and love him? No. I ain't about to walk into the Lions Den wearing Lady Gaga's me dress. What kind of stupidity am I? So you have to make me believe what you want me to believe, so that I can easily succumb to what you're about to put me through. And one of the other character traits that we talk about when we're talking about the abusive personality is their ability to hide. They hide within plain sight, because most people are going to think that, oh, the thug is going to be the abuser. No, it might be your pastor.
Say that.
Ding, 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 ding.
Say that.
We hear the conversations of the Pookies and the Ray Rays on social media. It ain't the Pookies and the Ray Rays that scare me. It's your frat brothers, your homeboy that you graduated from college with. It's your pastor. It's your lawyer. It's your doctor.
Come on,
it's your teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because we expect the bad boys to be bad. Mm-hmm. We don't expect the good men to be bad.
Yeah.
When we talk about them being able to hide in plain sight, one of the best examples I use is one of the most prolific serial killers of now the 21st century was a deacon and a Boy Scout and a history teacher. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So nobody was thinking that he was out here part-time killing, because he was literally everything that we are taught to look for in a mate, in a good person, right? So you're always gonna hear, oh, he would never do that. No, he's not gonna do that, because he ain't hitting his coworkers. He's knocking you out there.
You know what? Lim Johnson just said yes, because the one thing that people overlook is the smoothness of abusers. Now, I want to talk about the smoothness, and this is not to say everybody's smooth or they got some swag as a narcissist. So don't come for me, y'all. But the narcissistic personality disorder, some of the things that narcissist has is they want to be admired. Everything is about them. They are inconsiderate. They don't understand or care about your feelings. But guess what they can do? They can pretend like they care about your feelings. They are the F boys, you know what I mean? Like, well, oh, I care about your feelings. I care about everything you have going on. But deep down, you could be talking to this person and they could be looking at you. They have mastered a mask to where they look like, you know what, I'm listening. I got you. You know what I mean? They say all the right things. And my supervisor always says, if you like this person, but you think that they're dangerous, those are the ones that really are dangerous, because sociopaths are very likable. If you think about, you know, I mean, a lot of people that have gone down in history that have hurt people, like you said, they've never been the people that's loose cannons. They've all, well, not never, but they're not typically the people that are the loose cannons that you have to be afraid of. They're the people that are very charming on the outside. Chameleons is what Paul is saying.
Yeah,
I think that
I always hear people say is, I can't believe it. I never thought he or she would do something like that.
Mm-hmm. I think the conversation can be had around how we look at people as one dimensional, and that sometimes we only get presented with that one dimension, and then not understanding that humans are complex. Humans are very predictable, but also unpredictable. So you don't know what type of person you can have or what that person can be capable of, despite their title, despite their status in the community. So I think that when we have a multi-dimensional approach, we can then start expecting that anything can happen versus us only looking in this one box or one dimension of a specific, human being.
But you know what? People can't hide for that long. Go ahead, Amber.
Right. I agree.
Did you have more?
Well, I was gonna say people can't hide for that long. That's why I always believe in giving people time. Let me see how you look in the dark. Do you take me around your family? Let me see how you look when you're happy, when you're mad, when you're sad. Like, let me see what's going on in the whole. Like, I like to look at the total person, and you can't do that in a week. You can't do that in 2 weeks. Like, I like to be like, I've been known to just sit back and hold out and be like, I don't care. You don't get to have sex with me. You don't get to do whatever you want to do with me until I see you in the daylight. Let me see what every part of you looks like. Because now my endorphins is going crazy because I really, really like you, but you could be the dang on Boston Strangler.
And that goes to one of the other personality traits, quick involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, you meet him on Monday and he's trying to move you in his house on Friday, girl, run.
So,
run, Forrest.
Auntie Shug, you just hit on something that I think needs to be expounded upon. When you said, I want you to take me around your family. I want to get to know you. It's got to be some time put in. The taking you around the family. I know far too many abusers who take women around their family and their family don't say a damn word. They family know what they are, and they family won't say a word. They will let this woman find this out on her own. That is probably because enable abusers.
Because if we go back to the first part of the conversation during the hot sauce session, I want to say Suge said something like, people know who's gonna hold their truth, right? And within that family environment, that is an abusive family within itself.
And that's what I was going to say earlier. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
One of the first things we look at is when we're doing an intake, we do an A, because I need to know, was your mama abused? Was your daddy the abuser, or was your daddy abused by your mama? Was your grandma touched? Was your great grandma touched? Because then I'm going to be able to draw a distinct line of how we got here. What and this is on my wall in my office. This is going to be the space where you unlearn and learn bullshit that got you. Because at some point, someone told you or taught you that you being abused or you being the abuser was okay.
Yep.
And as we're talking about it, and that's why I was going to bring that up too, because when you hear kind of the manipulation tactics and the how, I'm sorry, look, let me just say one thing. Auntie Shug is infamous for sipping on her drink like that during recording.
I didn't even see it.
And it throws me off every time.
This is me in my office. I literally in my office, I always got something next to me on my table because I'm constantly sipping something, some tea or something while I'm in session.
It's okay. It throws me off all the time. It ain't you, it's me. But no, so I was gonna say too, it's really hard to understand how does somebody get like that? How do you get to the point where you like strategically manipulate people to the point where you can control them and abuse them and have like no awareness of it or really not really care whether it's right or wrong. And part of my dissertation was looking into how certain traits or certain things that you view as a child or see as a child impacts how you relate to people throughout your life into adulthood. And intimate partner violence was one of those huge things. Like if you see that, you think that's how you're supposed to be in a relationship.
Mhm.
And you may be corrected by people over time, but that was the first thing that you saw. You were in that for like the first, I don't know, 10 years of your life. And that's truly what you believe is how a relationship is supposed to be. So then as a teenager and as an adult, you get into these relationships. Maybe you start to learn that it's wrong in society's eyes, but then you try to justify it. Hold on one second. So that's really one of the big things too, is I'm not saying like have empathy for people that abuse or, are the perpetrators, but just understanding that they have some tough backgrounds too.
Mhm.
They
No,
have things that they've learned and need to unlearn.
I'm gonna speak
The
as one
one
of
thing
the
I say,
is I used to be one of the ones that I used to be a hitter. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there. And I seen it growing up, and it was just like, you know what? I didn't have the emotional regulation that I've been taught to have now, and that I've learned through years of education. But I was more so like, you know what? You did this. I'm hitting you. I'm gonna knock you clean out. And it was, I mean, I've never been with an abusive guy, but I have been an abusive person. And so, even in one of my past relationships, like, oh, you cheated on me, my feelings hurt, boom, punch you dead in your face. And it's because I was toxic. But I learned that from somewhere. And so I had like, one of these organizations I'm a part of is like, you need anger management. And to be actually taught to handle my anger without necessarily having to hit something or somebody all the time, you actually have to be taught and unlearn those skills. I mean, you have to be taught those skills and unlearn those behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a story last night. Some person I was talking to, they were like, they were talking about sibling fighting. And they were like, you've never hit your sibling. I was like, well, I have. And I was like, and I was really embarrassed by it. I was like, I was never taught to hit nobody. Like, and they could not believe that I did not like fight my sister all the time. They were like, no, like that's a normal thing. You're supposed to hit your sibling. You're supposed to grow up hitting. And I'm like, no, you're not. So it was just like the what is it? Normalization of fighting and the normalization of hitting people that you love is a way to basically show your love to somebody. And how that conversation just started, and I was looking at him like, no, I'm embarrassed by that. I shouldn't be putting my hands on nobody, but he could not understand that. So we do have a culture where we normalize these things and need to unlearn it. I agree.
And it's a whole nother topic for another day, but our children learn that first. I don't care where you stand on the spanking line, but when you tell your child, I'm spanking you because I love you and I'm trying to discipline you, you don't know which one of those children are going to take that in as the person who loved me can hit me. You don't know. You
That's
think
true.
that it's raising them properly, but you don't know how that particular child is going to internalize that hit. And so be where you want on the spanking line, but you got to be cognizant that when when you tell your child that I am your safe space, but you hit them, how is that safe?
That's true.
That's true.
and it was one thing that while worked in a men's prison that I figured out. We do not, as a society, encourage men to have whole feelings. We teach them that hey, the only feeling you got is anger, and the
Mhm.
only way to deal with it is violence.
Yep.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
when I literally when I walked into a male prison, one of my first rules was, hey, don't get blood on my shoes because the state will not replace them, and don't make me write no incident report. Why? Because I knew fighting was gonna happen. Because oh, This is that environment. And anger is prevalent without the other feelings that we have as human beings. While doing anger management in the prison, and we're talking about men that had numerous bodies under their belt, right? Something that stuck out to me was this is the only time I've ever felt safe to talk about my feelings was inside a prison because I've never been able to talk about my feelings. I've been told it's okay to hit. I've been told it's okay to cuss. I've been told it's okay to destroy things, but I've never been told it's okay to talk about my feelings. So that's the other side of where children learn how to abuse to go on to become adult abusers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
you know what I used to do? Hit, destroy things, and cuss until I had to unlearn those behaviors. And that's real talk.
And that's literally because 9 times out of 10, that was what was modeled in your home.
Yeah.
You're either going to become the abuser or the victim.
And there's a comment here too that speaks to that. And I hate to see this happen, but Miss Neek says, even when little boys hit little girls, adults say, "Oh, he just likes her."
I was going to touch on that.
Yep. So that's teaching the little girl, like, it's okay for him to hit you because he likes you. Right. And it's teaching the boy, like, it's okay to hit her if you like her. Please stop telling your kids that. Please.
Big time.
Okay.
So what I do with my kids, like, boys pick on girls or girls pick on boys. I don't teach them that. I'll say, like, that's probably what people gonna tell you is that he like you, and it might be because they like you because they don't have another way to express that emotion. But that's not who you want to like you. Somebody that's gonna hit you because they like you. So like I try to teach them all the ways that they're gonna hear it. Because I would have heard it like that. He's hitting you because he likes you as a young kid. Or, she's hitting you because she likes you, or she's picking on you because she likes you. And it's like, okay, later on, they're like, well, no, he did like me back then. He might have, but he clearly doesn't know how to regulate his emotions. If I like you, mean your head got to hit the washer and the dryer. That was funny.
Well, I mean, we've covered a lot. And I'm pretty sure there's so much more to this topic that we can't even cover in one episode.
I'm sorry, Amber. Before you say that, and there is more than just physical abuse, and that's one thing that we did not touch on.
No, we didn't talk about the physical, the financial, the sexual, the spiritual. It's multiple aspects of domestic violence that I hate that I didn't get a chance to cover. But hey, we all know how when we deep dive into these topics, things happen. And
we may have no way. Let's give it like 10 minutes
for part 2.
Can we just go through some of those like very briefly for like 10 minutes just to kind of, because I feel like it's really important for this episode to give it context and what we've already talked about.
Yeah, and I did not want it to be underdeveloped. Just
can we just let's give it like 10 minutes. Go ahead. Go for it.
So when we talk about domestic abuse or intimate partner abuse, right? We're talking about physical, which is not just them hitting you as your person, but them destroying your property, them destroying things of sentimental value, withholding medication. I just had one today where her partner was canceling her doctor's appointment, was canceling her chemo, things of that nature. When we talk about financial abuse,
they want you dead, bitch. They want your ass dead.
That's attempted murder. Why are you taking my medicine? Like, Jesus.
Attempted murder. Attempted murder.
So when we talk about things like financial abuse, you may be the person that's going to work, but you can't have your own money. It may be I've had one where he was driving her car, and every time he drove her car, something would go wrong. He would leave it on empty when he brought it back home. He would flatten her tires, so she had to go out and purchase new tires. So it's not as outright all the time as taking the money or withholding money or not allowing you access to financial information.
And there's also like
flashing my tires if you driving the car. Like, sir, how you gonna get where you going if I don't change the tires now?
because
He had a car. He had a car.
Oh, he had a
He
car.
had a car.
Oh, he had a car.
But he would do things like, hey, I let my son, her stepson, drive my car, so can I drive yours? And that would when he would magically run over like nails, or you're like, dude, did you run through like a construction zone?
Yeah.
Like every time.
And then you get the situations where like women are, and not even only women, because like I said that there are some men. Like I knew a man, and he was my friend, and he was actually being abused by his wife, and for a long time. And the minute he snapped back after years of being and hit and punched and everything, he was in trouble. He was in trouble, and that's why people don't always just be like, I believe him, because no, there's always two sides and there's always a why.
So we call that reactionary abuse, because what it looks like to other people, let's go back to something I said, they curate the story. What it looks like to other people is that they are abusing men, right? That's a part of psychological abuse. Psychological abuse, most people think psychological abuse is just name calling and putting denigration and all of that good stuff. No, it's things like reactionary abuse, where, oh, I'm gonna provoke you, and then I'm gonna pull out my cell phone to show people what you're doing to me. But you didn't see what I was doing to you. They didn't see that part of the video because I didn't show that.
Yeah.
And then we have
putting somebody down. I was just going to define denigration as putting another person down, making them feel bad about themselves, talking down to somebody.
And
public humiliation is a big one.
Gaslighting falls under that psychological abuse, because everybody like to use the term gaslighting these days.
I hate that word.
But if used correctly, it falls under psychological abuse.
Absolutely. And then we have sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is exactly what it is. It is forcing you into a sexual space after abuse has occurred. So I'm going to denigrate you, and then I'm going to force you to have sex with you. I'm going to violate your sexual boundary of, hey, I don't wake me up to have sex, but I'm gonna wake up to find you inside. Or I'm going, it gets that deep. It is the idea that a wife can't say no to her husband, or a husband can't say no to his wife. Or I'm going to coerce you, or I'm going to coerce you into the mood so that I can have sex. Not because I want you to have sex with me for pleasure, but because I want to have sex with you to violate your boundary around sex with me. It also looks like forcing your mate to watch porn. If you're not a porn watcher, but you force your mate to watch porn, hey, guess what? That falls under sexual abuse.
Well, it looks like we got some suggestions. Emotional abuse.
Reproductive abuse.
Reproductive abuse. Reproductive abuse looks like, hey, I'm going to get you pregnant. I'm going to flush your birth control down the toilet in order to get you pregnant. I'm going to track your cycle in order to know when you're ovulating in order to get you pregnant.
And that's some sociopathic stuff, because you got to be on your game and OCD in order to even, I don't even track my own. So for you to be like, let me what she look like? Is her temperature warm? Like, for you to be doing that, you got to be on something different.
I forgot. I never actually defined what domestic abuse or IPV actually is. It is the gaining and maintaining of power and control. Simple as that.
Simple. The gaining and maintaining of power and control.
And my definition here says intimate partner, because I typed this before you gave the distinction.
Yep.
But let's say it's not always that.
You can wrap it up all in one. It's the same definition.
Okay.
Just the population difference.
Any other types of abuse that we missed? Spiritual
abuse. This is when they utilize a spiritual practice to abuse you and to keep you in the abusive environment.
When they tell
so what that looks like is
Divorce is a sin. You can't leave your abusive husband. Just pray for him. Uh-huh.
I'm Christina, because we going to jail together, sis.
Snap.
He said, "I'm going to jail with you, boo."
We're going to jail together. Yes.
Christina said, "I'll be on an episode of Snap."
That.
Looking crazy, but you know what?
Just get my bail money. That's all I'm asking.
No, because you know what? People don't have also is friends who hold them accountable and friends who check on them. And people like to retreat and get angry with you when you ask, like, y'all over there fighting? Is he hitting you? Is she hitting you? Or when you actually say, you know what, that's domestic violence, the victim will get pissed off. Look at the way Chrisean stood in front of Blueface. Her father hit him. She's standing in front of Blueface. Like the whole family, you know what I mean? Like it was she was protecting him. That's what she personified what people do mentally. So if you say, you know what, that's domestic abuse, you probably shouldn't be doing that. If y'all slapping, punching, kicking, and hitting each other, that's intimate partner violence. That's not a healthy relationship. And people will fight you to the death about it. They'll get mad about it. And they may even isolate themselves from you, which is a punishment for you. Because if you love that person, then you don't want to be away from them because you're calling them on a toxic relationship that's not healthy for them.
It's that normalization. It's that normalization of these behaviors and what we find to be something that traditionally should go on. It's like, this is supposed to happen. Like, this is the normal. So, yeah.
You know, a big question that I also get just from people in general when it comes to domestic violence, the abuser. Can an abuser ever change? Can they ever really change and no longer be an abuser?
They absolutely can, but it involves some very deep and involved long-term therapy. Because just like a victim has to unlearn how they got here, so does the abuser.
Yep.
I can't conduct right now. I can't do abuser treatment, obviously, because I work directly with victims and survivors. Mm-hmm. But my agency does provide abuser treatment, and that is a 28-week program to start off, just out of the gate, 28 weeks. And we're talking weekly meetings, 28 weeks, hour to an hour and a half.
And I don't believe in the total full body change. I believe that you can change to where you stop hitting that person or you stop being an abuser mentally. But I also think that that it's you learn to adapt and not function that way. So even like it's like an addict. If you
asked that, like, did you think it was more like an addiction?
Yeah, it's like an addict. To whereas I'm not one day and for my whole life this abusive Joe. And now I'm not. Now I don't do that anymore. I got to keep on fighting the urge to knock you out or keep on fighting the urge to try to oppress you because it's embedded in me.
Mm-hmm. It's your foundation.
Yep.
It's your foundation because, and I've worked in addiction. A lot of times you can trace addiction back to something that they saw. So I've always seen my mom drink wine after dinner, or I've always saw my dad drink a 6-pack. While watching football on Monday. So that's what I thought I should be doing in order to cope. Abuse is kind of the same way. This is how I've learned how to express my emotions. So I have to be able to know how to check them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is a good takeaway? Amber, can we foil it? Because I know you're probably chomping at the bit.
No, I was actually gonna you made me forget what I was going to say, but I was going to make a comment on what y'all were talking about. But yes, we could go ahead and transition into that's what I was going to say. I was going to say in terms of change, yes. So like, yes, it's your foundation is something that you saw and you believe should happen. But then the more that you engage in a certain behavior, the more it becomes part of your personality. So when we're looking at personality disorders, we're looking if this has been a problem for all of your life or most of your life or for a long time, but it's mostly behaviors. Have you been doing this consistently for, I don't know, over 10 years or so? Right. It starts to become a part of your personality. And once it gets to that point, it's really hard to reverse it or just kind of like push it out because it's like a part of who you are and how you. But let me go ahead and transition us to the foil. So our foil is just a quick ending to talk about maybe treatment options or any suggestions or advice that we have for victims and or perpetrators of abuse. So let's go ahead and transition into that.
So as we prepare to wrap up, the one thing I want everyone to take away from this is just being able to recognize what abuse looks like. It's gonna be that friend that magically start isolating themselves because their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their husband or their wife no longer wants them around. Um, don't ask why don't they leave, because it's a vast reason of I don't have the resources. Where am I gonna stay? Because I can't stay with my mama for another year because she was also abusive to me as well. Um, Abuse is not something that just magically happens overnight, and to get out is gonna be just as hard as it was to get in.
Mm.
And I can't stay with you because that's the first thing. Can I stay with you? Everybody be like, it's 7
Because I
people that
love
live
when people
here.
ask that, and I go, "Can they stay with you?" Because we do have a safe house here at my agency, and we just moved one of our survivors out that had been in that safe house for exactly 12 months.
Wow.
Most people ain't gonna let you stay at their house 12 months, more or less.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna let you stay there 12 days, much less 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Safety
What do
planning.
okay.
Safety planning.
Safety planning.
When we talk about safety planning is done. You become an award-winning actor or actress. Nothing changes, but you start moving very low key, much like the gentle lasagna. You be very
Yes.
quiet. You
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
quiet.
You don't have
You
to
ain't making
announce
no
what
sudden
you're doing.
moves. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
Make no sudden moves. You kind of treat it like the Lions did. You make no sudden moves and you back out slow.
Keep everything normal
Um,
and out slow.
um, for people who want to help abuse victims, it can be something as simple as a phone card, um, allowing them to keep a flash drive of important documents at your house that they can easily access. Um,
I've
buying a
done that
burner
before.
phone for them is buying a burner phone. Um, just keeping allowing your house, not for them to move in because he or she might come to your house looking for them, but hey, I got your house key, I got your safety bag, it's here when you need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
One takeaway that I was gonna have was like one thing you said was like no sudden movements, but can you talk a little bit about shelters? Because I know that there are domestic violence shelters, or there are, and some of them are really private to where people can't find out. Like, how do, and I mean, this might be putting it out there, but how do people go about finding those resources?
So what they do is you have come reach out to to the local DV agency. And I know here in North Carolina we have a very good domestic violence rescue system where if our safe house doesn't have space, we are get them a hotel room for 7 days until we can get them to the next closest. Or we might do an immediate, hey, we got somebody with 3 kids that needs to come to your shelter right now. Um, we're arranging we're arranging transportation, and they'll be there as soon as possible. Most DV agencies that have a shelter attached to them will do something like you can walk into the police station and go, "I'm a domestic violence victim. I need shelter," and the police will take it from there. As far as getting you to the agency and getting you to the shelter, I know for our clients or anyone that needs shelter, all they literally have to do is call the police and go, "I want to leave. This is where I am." They'll come pick them up and take them directly to our safe house.
And
And
my take, sorry, go ahead.
our safe house, I tell people, you don't ever know that it's there. So my intern, currently, I have an intern. She had DoorDash to our safe house approximately 2 weeks before she started working, before she started interning at our agency. When I took her to the safe house, she's like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know this existed. I just thought it was office building."
Mm. When I one thing I do want to say, and this is just my takeaway before we go, is the abuse of the police, like calling the police and then, oh, psych, never mind, it's not happening. Calling the police, but you really want to stay. That's what's confusing for even police officers. In human nature, people start to not believe the boy or the girl who cried wolf, and they might treat your situation different. So when you're ready, actually standing 10 toes down on that and being ready. And I know sometimes it takes 7 times to leave, but even documentation, like when you go to the police station, if you've been raped, have a rape kit. If you've been hit, get some pictures taken. That way, if you do end up on an episode of Snap, there's at least a big long paper trail that this person has been abusing me.
I think my takeaway is actually for all the people in both the victim, either the victim or the abuser's life. We have got to stop being quiet about things. You can't keep being the family or the friend that just, oh, it ain't my business. Oh, I'm gonna stay quiet. That's very enabling. That does not help anyone. That perpetuates and continues the cycle. So you can't say that you want better for our community, because I hear so many people, the Black community don't stick together. We don't do this, we don't do that. Well, if you one of those people that don't speak up or don't speak out or don't stand 10 toes down and try to change this dynamic by not enabling, you really sound hypocritical. You gotta change. We gotta change that.
Yep.
My takeaway, because I know Amber's probably gonna hit on the children, so I ain't even gonna go that route. My takeaway is to not glamorize some of these celebrity relationships, and to understand that abusers come in all shapes or forms. I think a lot of times we often think, again, like our guest had said, our pastors, our teachers, our lawyers, our doctors can't be abusers because of their status or their title. That is not true. Anybody can become abuser at any moment of time. It just takes the right situation. So I would say my takeaway is to just be understanding that humans are more than one dimensional, and you never know somebody's story. You never know how somebody has grown up. And so I think it's just best for us to just keep an open mind when we meet new people or getting into new relationships. And also just don't go by somebody's title. Because obviously Suge has shared her story. Suge's a whole doctor. We're all doctors, but we all have stories as well. And we all come from someplace. So I encourage everybody to just keep an open mind.
Speak my doctorhood into existence, Auntie Keish. Because
Amen, Auntie Keish. I am on track.
Because we are live, so I'm not. But speak that into existence.
Yeah, and we got social work. All of us are professionals. I should have said professional.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't want that.
I mean, yeah, really, don't do it.
Amber, you're not helping me because I'm hitting on that same track.
You can do anything you put your mind to, but if you don't have to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
But
I know you can.
I know Auntie Amber going to go and probably talk about the kids, but when you mentioned titles, that got brought up a lot, people's titles are not personality traits. They are titles.
That's it.
A title is
they are your job.
That's it. It's a job. It's not who you are. It has nothing to do with your personality.
Except for me. Mine is a personality trait. I am a doctor. I'm a dissertation defense survivor. And for the next 6 months,
y'all see why we can't get through cutting and editing? Because of this. This is exactly why. We can't get through that.
This is what happened for real.
Speak for yourself. Go ahead.
My foil is for the kids. Y'all already know that. But I really, the first thing that comes to mind is protect the babies, right? Protect these babies, protect these kids, protect your teenagers. But also being understanding when you know that a kid has witnessed domestic violence or intimate partner violence. Because a lot of the times what happens is, even if the parent that is going to be with the children leaves the situation, then you get some behaviors with the children later on down the line, and the parent is either blaming the kids, like, you don't, like, why are you acting like this? I don't understand. This is ridiculous. Well, I understand, because this kid has seen some things and they don't know what's right and what's wrong. They're at school and they're hearing this is the right way to do it. They go to church, they hear another thing, but then they see something else. It's monkey see, monkey do for kids, for young kids, and even for like preteens. I see it. This is what I think happens, and this is what I'm going to do. I don't care what anyone else says. Words don't mean anything. So just protect your babies. If you are in the situation and you're not yet at a point where you can leave or you are ready to leave, then at least try your best to protect your kids from witnessing this. I know that you can recognize when there are some triggers. You know, your partner comes home drunk and you know that every time they're drunk that they're going to be abusive. Hide your babies, put them somewhere where they're not able to witness it. But that's my piece, is just protect the babies.
And stop giving kids these raggedy situations and expecting them to come out not smelling like smoke. Stop putting them in the furnace and expecting them to come out unsinged, because that's even what's been done to me. Is, you know, I'm looking at it, I'm put in here, but you better act right throughout their teenage years. You better not act sexually promiscuous. You better not engage into in an intimate partner violent relationship. But that's all I seen. Oh, you didn't see that, or I did that because of this. And justification, it's just it hurts the kids too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I seen something in
I
social
didn't tap
media
on that. I'm
recently.
sorry.
I saw
Y'all
something.
gotta bring me back for a second one.
Yeah. But y'all know Lil Scrappy.
Yeah.
And he was trying to talk to his mom about like what he witnessed as a child, and you know, all the things that they've been through. And like her face was completely like no emotional response. You know, she was saying words, but it didn't really mean anything, and trying to justify it. And I'm like, no, like your child saw these things and went through these things. They're telling you that even if you have a justification, even if you believe there's a reason why this happened, you still validate their feel. Like, I understand what happened. Like, what can we do to move forward here? Or what can we do? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, oh, and I've worked with parents like that too.
Listen, just keep in mind, y'all, in a lot of these situations, if not all of them, a justification is just an excuse. That's it. It's an excuse, because yes, it might sound plausible, but in Little Scrappy's situation, something his mom said during that argument was, "Well, my parents did. You don't know what I went through. It's not my fault what you went through. It's not my fault that you didn't choose to do the work for yourself to be better for me. I shouldn't have to feel pain because you didn't know how to deal with your pain."
It's rationalized, but they rationalize it. And I call those, I said this to my addicts, rational lies. Literally, rational lies. You rationalize it. That's it.
And
But
intergenerational trauma. And that's another episode we said we're gonna do later on. But that's straight up what it is. Your parents parented you a certain way. You think that's how it is. You parent your kids that way, and it just keeps going. But we gotta stop it. And that's what we're working on here at the Clinical Cookout, y'all. Our next episode is going to be premiering on Wednesday. What's the date?
Oh, yes, changed from first season because we did a poll and it seems like everybody would prefer Wednesday. We will be doing our shows on Wednesday this season. So we did this on Friday because we had already announced it, but it will be Wednesday going forward.
And it will not be this long. We sorry, we just got a little caught up, and we wanted to make
My
sure
bad.
that we wanted to make sure that we rounded out the episode, because you don't want it to be underdeveloped. We'd rather have more than not enough.
Yep. And this what happened when you go live. We wanted to give y'all a live one. Usually we put out recorded episodes. So go live, you might go long.
Yep. And just a reminder, our next episode is not live like this, but it's live in a sense that the aunties will be watching the episode with you, responding to comments and questions. So please tune in. It'll be on YouTube this time. So we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank y'all for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me.